Good evening, everyone. I'm Michael Sainado with Real Progressives. Tonight we have a special guest. Amy Vilela is running for Congress in Nevada's 4th Congressional District, and we have her on this evening to discuss the BuzzFeed report on Friday that the incumbent Congressman Ruben Kihuen, who is a Democrat, allegedly a staffer who worked for him between December 2015 to April 2016, quit because he was constantly sexually harassing her. He was grabby. He kept propositioning her. And in the wake of that, the DCCC chair has called on him to resign. Nancy Pelosi has echoed those calls, and other Democrats have called out Kihuen for this allegation. So, Amy, I know you put out a statement, but what was your response to that BuzzFeed report?
I was really disappointed. We have a lot of issues that our representatives need to be addressing in Congress and in the Senate, that to take advantage of the power that you hold and use it in such a way that affects other people. That was very disheartening for me to hear. When we elect representatives and to represent the constituents, we are putting a lot of faith and trust that they're going to do the will of the people and make sure they're looking out for their constituency. So it was very disheartening to me to hear that this was happening in our state of Nevada.
And I know Lucy Flores, basically endorsed you in the wake of those allegations. So, what has been the response from other Democrats? Have people reached out to you? Have local media reached out to you? I mean, what's been the response in the past 24 to 48 hours since this news has really broke? And what's been the response in your district?
So I've gotten a lot of support even before the fact. People are definitely really showing a lot of support, and especially here in Nevada. It has opened up the opportunity for people to look at another candidate and to do so without having a sense of they're betraying a sitting congressperson. But more importantly, I think people are ready to be very supportive of women in Congress and women who are strong and willing to really represent their constituents. I think that we need to see more women in Congress and in the Senate to understand what's at stake, that are taking care of families, that are in the business world dealing with these type of situations. It's important that they have representation, and we have more representation in Congress and in the Senate.
And for some of our viewers who aren't familiar with your campaign, can you tell us a little bit about your background? I know you're a really interesting story that I've written about, and you've been on the show to discuss a little bit. But can you briefly talk about your background and what inspired you to run for Congress?
Sure. Most people know me most specifically for my work in healthcare. But for those that have been following my campaign, they would realize that I am really about social, economic, LGBTQ, and racial justice and environmental justice, because all of these things are intersectional. We need representation that touches and represents us on all those different levels in order to even have true healthcare justice. My advocacies began on the heel of my daughter's death. And that was a tough period. And initially, I was a healthcare advocate, advocating for Medicare for all. But as a candidate, there are so many different issues that we need to be concentrating on in our legislative body, because they're affecting a vast majority of Americans. There's a lot of Americans that are hurting, that are in pain, and they need real representation. And I've had a very interesting life in that I have experienced many things that are typical for the average American. You know, I've been a single mother. I put myself through college as a single mother. You know, I've also watched my children, you know, endure racial discrimination. I have been on WIC and I've been on food stamps and Medicaid for pregnant women and children. I understand the struggles, and the struggles are real for the majority of Americans. And with what's happening in Congress now, we only know that it's going to get worse. We need to have people in Congress that are going to fight for the American people, who are going to be warriors and not beholden to their donors or special interests, and who are going to be beholden to the people, the voters. And I feel that's definitely what my candidacy represents. And I am a grassroots candidate. I'm a Justice Democrat and also a brand new Congress candidate. And, you know, we're really focusing my candidacy on the issues. It's always been very issue-based.
And I shared a political article about what Ruben Kihuen is facing, and I noted in it just a few minutes ago on Twitter. What really bothered me is that they cited Kihuen's Republican challenger, a Las Vegas councilman, but they didn't mention you, and they made it seem like no one has entered the primary, which is, I don't know if they did it out of laziness or they just don't know. But I wanted to ask you, what's been really the response to your candidacy, in your district? How have you seen local media? Have they been receptive to your campaign? What are some of the strategies to really break through where Kihuen's an establishment candidate? With mainstream media outlets, even local ones, they tend to favor those establishment candidates. So what are what's been their response, and what have been some of the strategies you've been working on for your campaign to really break through the media blackout that progressives tend to experience?
Yeah, that is a progressive candidate. We are pushing the envelope on a lot of issues. Overall, the support of me has been very strong. Yes, the media does know that I exist, and the establishment has favored, Ruben Kihuen, and in return, so is the media. But to me, it's more important that I've been pushing the envelope on the issues. We've been discussing the issues because of my candidacy, and we have social media that is very it's really gaining traction and popularity, and we're getting a lot of followers. There is a lot of support that I've heard since I have announced. Since this whole situation, Ruben has been announced, and people are beginning to be aware that there is a Justice Democrat, that there is, someone who is a true progressive running in CD4. And we've already been on the media that is not typical, like shows like yours, and, not the mainstream. People know me pretty well. So it's just a matter of, I think, people beginning to realize that, my campaign is gaining viability by the day, every day, and it's getting more and more support. So we're really excited about that aspect, and that we're talking about the issues, and we haven't really strayed off of that. So we're just very excited that there's a lot of people through these unfortunate circumstances, and first of all, I want to say that, my heart goes out to the victims. And it's unfortunate that there had to be a victim for this behavior to come to the surface. But through this, we are seeing people that quite possibly don't need to be in office if they're not going to represent the people, and they're going to abuse their power.
And I know before you ran, Kihuen was not receptive at all to your push for him to co-sponsor Medicare for all. but what has been his campaign's response to your campaign? Will we see any debates or town halls, of that nature? How has Kihuen been receptive in terms of letting democracy and the voters choose, or has he been like a lot of incumbents in trying to ignore your campaign and hoping people don't pay attention to it?
Has not given. He has not has maintained his capacity to vote in a manner that is not supportive of even. There have been numerous votes even after his denial of co-sponsoring or 676 that have hurt a lot of, the potential to hurt a lot of his constituents. So he has stayed the course and continued to do, in my opinion, what's not in the best interest of his constituents and the people that counted on him to represent. I feel like he is really insulated from his constituents and has forgotten his roots and where he's come from. And I think that's easy to do when you're not with the people on a daily basis and you're in that political environment and taking your cues from Harry Reid. So that is unfortunate that we have representatives that are not keeping up with what's happening with their constituents.
And another question I wanted to ask you is, I know Nancy Pelosi and the DCCC chair called on Kihuen to resign, but have there been local groups within your district? What have their responses been? Has the local Democrats, have they put out a statement? Do you expect them to?
I know that Dina Titus has said that he needs to do what's in the best interest of constituents. Some of the other representatives have called for his resignation. The last I saw out was that the DCCC is calling for him to resign. There's been no word from Harry Reid's office or from Ruben Kihuen's office on what he plans on doing. And at this point, for me, nothing has changed as far as my candidacy. I'm still an issues-based candidate that I want to really push forward and get some representation for the people. We have a lot of issues in Nevada that are specific to Nevadans, as well as a lot of issues that are across the nation. And we need some real representation for people here in Nevada. There are a lot of families that are scared right now that they're going to be deported. We have families here that don't make enough money to provide food and the basics of life and necessities of life for their family. We have people here that are going to be losing their insurance and their care, and the list goes on and on. We really need someone who is serious, who is not misusing their power, who is is concentrating on their job. And their job is to serve the people. Sometimes they get in office and you think all of a sudden they're public celebrities. You're not a public celebrity. You are a public servant. And that is your job. And that's what we need in office. We need someone who is serious about representing the people in America and making sure that our most disadvantaged, that our people at risk, people who are counting on us to do the right thing for them in representing them in Congress. That is the ultimate goal and what I'd like to see for the state of Nevada and for the United States as a whole.
And Amy, just my last question, is there anything else you would like people to know about your campaign, or do you have any news or anything that you want to plug before we sign off?
Well, we are really excited about where our campaign is. It's really been gearing up over the last couple months. We've made a lot of strides. We definitely are at a point where, we would love to have people get involved. We're getting ready to do the door knocking and our ground game. So please visit my website at amy4thepeople.com. Like, share, help us amplify our voice, and volunteer and donate. We're a grassroots campaign, and we definitely need all the help that we can get. We're all in this together. This is definitely a people-powered campaign, and I am definitely a people-powered candidate. I am here for the people. So also check me out on Twitter. I'm at Amy4thepeople. We definitely would love to hear from you. We're definitely enjoy getting input from people with ideas and suggestions, because that's what it's about. It's about representing the people. We definitely could use all the help we can get. And so definitely, visit, like, share, donate, and volunteer.
All right. Well, Amy, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for coming on and speaking with us this evening. And for everyone watching, I'll post her campaign website in the comments if you want to learn more about her campaign, follow her on social media, or donate. Good night, everyone. And thanks again, Amy.
Thank you for having me on.
No problem.